Hey everybody, today we are talking about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is the secret projects number 3 that Brandon Sanderson created in secret, as the name says, and it is actually the second book that I have read. I decided that I really wanted Tress of the Emerald Sea to be my first Brandon Sanderson novel that I read, and so I went ahead and did that. And then I knew I wanted to read Yumi next. I wasn't worried about the order because they're supposed to be like standalone stories, and so those were the 2 of the 4 that I was most interested in, just based off the pictures I had seen, the paintings and drawings that I've seen, and the title. And so based on just those things, though, that's the reason why I skipped number 2. I might read number 2 and number 4 at some point, but I just wanted to get these 2 down now and see how they were. With that context of me not reading any other books by Brandon Sanderson, there's a few words that I don't fully understand that are from the Cosmere that I don't have experience with in reading the actual other books that are in the Cosmere. And so because of that, there might be like things that I'm missing, like little inside jokes or references to other things that I know. Some of them I knew were references to other books, but luckily it didn't really change the experience that I was having while reading these books. So let's talk about Yumi a little bit. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is a story of Yumi and the painter, and so most of the time he just goes by the name of Painter. His actual name is Nikaro, but they call him Painter most of the time. And so something crazy happens where they seem to be living in 2 different worlds, 2 different planets, and Painter is looking up at the sky, looking at this what they believe is like a big star, or possibly another planet, something really bright in the sky. And all of a sudden, as he's looking at it, he wakes up and ends up being tethered by this kind of invisible connection to Yumi. And Yumi and Painter both freak out. They're like, what is going on? They don't understand it. They can't get too far away from each other because their connection line just like puts them back together. And it's basically how they are for the rest of the book. They're just like stuck to each other, and they have to try and figure out why this is now happening, because not only are they connected, when Yumi wakes up in her world, Painter is there and everybody sees Painter instead of her. She's like invisible, but he looks like her to everybody else. And when the reverse happens, when he falls asleep, they wake up in his world and he is invisible, but instead of her looking like him, she just looks like herself, and she's the one that everyone sees. And so we go through the story of back and forth when they are in one world and the other world, and trying to figure out what's going on. And Yumi thinks it's because she asked the spirits for the spirits asked her for help, and that they were going to send her a hero. And so when she woke up, she was really frightened at first about this man just in her wagon, but then she realized it must be the hero that the spirit sent. I realized I should have backed up a little bit before I went right into this. Yumi in her world is known as a yoki-iho, and it basically that just means that she is a chosen one. She is one that is supposed to do a certain art form, in this case stacking rocks in very delicate and intriguing and just fascinating creative ways of stacking these rocks that will bring spirits forth to view them. And then the spirits can then be tied to some kind of action to help the town, like they can become a part of a piece of machinery that will then help them grow crops or some things like that. One time when she summons a spirit doing this ritual for the town, she ends up getting asked by the spirit for help, and she doesn't really explain, or the spirit doesn't explain what kind of help she needs, or that the spirit needs. The spirit does not actually say why they need help. They just say that they need it and that they'll send a hero. And so Yumi is left with Painter now, assuming that he's the hero, and needs to figure out how they are going to save the spirits, because that's all the information that they have. Some of the things that I saw about this book before I had read it were people were saying a couple of things. One, that this was a Brandon Sanderson romance novel, like his take on romance genre. And another thing, that it's the weakest of the secret projects. Personally, I cannot speak on that unless I've read all 4 of them, but I will say I did like Tress of the Emerald Sea better than this one, only because Tress involved pirates and this really cool idea of spores and different kinds of spores and how they can be used and manipulated, and this idea of a sea that's not made out of water, and just everything in that story was just really cool and appealing to me. This, of course, is appealing to me too because I love art and I love painting, the idea of painting and just the world, the building of this particular planet, and the idea of Yumi's character and Painter's character. I really liked those things. I can't compare it to the other 2 that I haven't read. As far as this being a romance novel, I don't know if I would agree with that or put it in the romance genre. I definitely would not. I mean, I guess you could say it's a fantasy / romance novel, but still, I think the romance part is kind of like a side point to this. Like, it's there, but I guess if you were trying to put it in with like tropes of romance, it would probably be like enemies to lovers, but at the same time, it is not your traditional romance novel. It's the writing style and the way the narrator of this, the way the narration is, it is not like, you know, you're picking up an actual romance novel that is really popular and trending right now. The writing style is going to be completely different. To me, I feel like a lot of romance novels that are trendy right now, and the ones that I've read that I've talked about on this channel, can sometimes be borderline cheesy or unrealistic, or like using lines that are just old and tired, and I just can't fully invest myself in the relationships most of the time. Like, I kind of strike out when it comes to finding something that I am like, I loved this romance novel so much. Like, I've had not very many experiences that go that way. And so, but this one, it's less heavy on the romance aspect, more let's save the world and do that thing aspect, and trying to figure out what's going on. There is a section of near the end of the book that the narrator says, "You're probably really confused right now, so let's backtrack and summarize again." And then he goes through all of this. And for me, that was very much needed, because the night before I was kind of falling asleep while I was reading, and I was really trying hard to stay awake, and it was a part that I really needed more of my full attention to be reading, because I was a little lost the next morning when I was like, wait, what exactly happened last night? I think I got it, but I'm not really sure. So having the narrator do this was actually helpful for me. Overall, I really enjoyed this story. I love the illustrations. The paintings are beautiful. I looked them up after the fact because I did read this on the Kindle, and we do own the book. It is in the other room behind a fancy glass case shelf. And so I just read the Kindle version of this and looked up the paintings later to see the full effect of the color. And yeah, they're just really beautiful. Again, I consider this to be more of a fantasy novel than a romance novel, even though there is romance in it, and I do appreciate it. But I personally like the way that this was done better than a lot of the modern writing styles of the romance we get now. So yeah, so I just think that you should definitely read it if it sounds intriguing to you at all. The idea of a nightmare painter who paints away nightmares, and a yoki iho who takes spirits and uses them to help her town with stacking rocks. There are a lot of twists in this, I will say. There's definitely going to be a lot of things a lot of unanswered questions that finally come to light near the end of the book, and it's not what I was expecting. So yeah, it's very interesting. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read this or if you want to read it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.